Subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
Now today's story is even more interesting than the others have been because here is the journey of real India. Here's a person who starts from a small village in Uttar Pradesh, goes on to corporate leadership, and finally today has his own startup in the field of fitness. So Vikas Singh, welcome to Daydreamers with Himika, and thank you for this wonderful venture of yours called Fitpage, which we are interviewing you for.
Himika, thank you for having me. You're very generous, but I'm sure at the end of this conversation we'll have a few actionable items for people who are listening in or watching from your show. I'm very excited to be here.
Wonderful. Because I'm going to go to how the journey began a little later in the show. But first,
Sure.
I'm going to talk about this one thing that your company, when I go through the pages, emphasizes on in a very big way. Endurance sports, endurance training. Now, what I want to understand about is there enough that's happened in India in this field, and how are you planning to change things, if not?
Sure. Let's take a step back and think of how the country, India as a community, how they get fitter and how they adapt certain things in their lifestyle that makes them fitter, right? So if you see from the very start, India as a community likes to walk, right? We meet up people on walks, we catch up people after a walk, we go to parks, whether it's as young as when we start to walk, or elderly people, our grandparents and things like those. So one of the things we had also seen that if you do something that's very close to what people already do, there is a higher possibility that people will adapt to it. If you look at a number of surveys or a number of insights that have come from any habit formation, for it to be sustainable, it has to be suitable to their lifestyles. And we look at India's lifestyle because we like to walk as a habit. We thought, let's institutionalize that in a way that people are, if they are doing it structurally, they are able to get the health benefits. Also, let's see when you walk, what happens, or when you start to jog, then what happens, or when you start to run, what happens, which is called one of the endurance sports, right? Which is the point that we'll come to. Walking, jogging, or running, or any activity that you're doing for a certain period of time at certain intensity, it's going to endure your heart. Why does it endure your heart? Is because heart is a muscle. Any muscle that you work out, that gets endured if it's worked out with the right intensity and for the right duration. If you see aesthetically, we can't see heart, correct? We can see our various muscles, bicep muscles, tricep muscles, leg muscles, abs, and various other things. However, one of the more important muscles that are there which can't be seen are heart, right? Because it's a central axis of the human survival. And so we decided to get that right. If you're able to get that right, you're almost able to get everything else right. And that is why we decided to get into endurance training, endurance sport, by not making a lot of changes in the way people behave and live currently, but try to do things that are very similar to what they're already doing, but do it institutionally, do it in a way that's science-backed. Like, for example, the research shows and suggests that you should be spending about 150 minutes per week of exercise for your heart to be healthy for a general person, for example. So if you split that up into 5 days, like how you work Monday to Friday, for example, look at 30 minutes of workouts on each of the days. that completes your 150 minutes, right? That's a very nice way of putting a structure and going and working towards it. If you worked out for a much smaller duration than that, and one day you went and did that for much longer than 30 minutes, one day you did for 10 minutes, etc., I'm not saying it will not have results, right? But it's not going to have optimum results. So what we did was we reached out to exercise scientists around the world. We reached out to various coaches who have worked their salt in various countries. They have done similar works in various other countries, and we got them together. And we thought, hey, how do we look to solve this problem? And almost all of them came up with this approach that if you look to adopt something, like I reiterated earlier as well, which is similar to what you're doing, and if you help people to get fitter at heart, there is a high chance that they are going to be able to live longer. There are high chances that they are going to stick to a habit, something like this. And that's the reason of why we went into this way. Because what also happens is when you look at health and fitness, anyone who's in this space, they think, hey, they are in the fitness space, they're in the health space, they are in the medical space. And a lot of times you would see a lot of things are talked interchangeably that are not necessarily right. And we wanted to be very, very certain that we want to adapt to a particular methodology to take fitness so that people are able to learn from it, and then they are able to form sustainable life changing habits and go with it, instead of trying to suggest them a fancy diet plans or a fancy gym or a workout that at the end of it will lose as soon as the resolution of a festive season or a new year loses, right? It's a sheen. So yeah, that's a maybe a long dwindled answer, but as you could see, I'm fairly passionate about it, and that's why um, I thought it will do justice if I just explain that a bit more in detail.
Because you have actually launched your startup at a time when
Yeah.
the idea of fitness is very strong in the country, one. But at the same
Yeah.
time, there are a lot of players also in the market today. For example,
Mhm.
there is Healthify, there is Fitter, there is, of course, Cult, PureFit. Is it becoming a crowded market for you? And if yes, then how are you striving to be different?
Sure. I don't think one needs to be different, honestly. I also don't think that there is always, or at any point of time, going to be a space constraint, so long as you know what you're doing and there is a product market fit. Correct. If you look at India as a endurance sport market, let's look at um, let's look at the market from two different segments. One is people who walk or run, and then they go on to participate in an event. That is, they will go on to participate in a small run, that is a 3 kilometer, 5 kilometers, 10K, half marathon or a marathon, or even longer distances. That's one set of participation. And then second set of participation, which is much larger market, that is just walking or running or doing something just to be fit, which is the bigger purpose, right? So if we look at the first market itself, India is India is progressing in a direction where someone like United States or Germany or the UK went in about 20 years ago. If you look at US today, about 20 to 22 million people participate in at least one registered race every year. And when we compare that to that of India, we have less than 5 million people who participate in a registered event in a year. But if you look at this number 10 years ago, this number used to be less than 300,000 people total. That's the way the participative events market has exponentially grown. And so we think being in that space is the right time, is the right space to be in. That's one. The second space that you see, the walking market, just for general fitness or casual recreational joggers who are not going to participate in a race or event, it's all of us. Possibly we all aspire to run or walk, but more often than not we do not pick it up, either because we have a medical constraint, we think, or we have a we possibly think it is not going to help you the way you think for it to help. Someone says, hey, my knees will get damaged. Someone says, you know, maybe I'll get heart attack or XYZ, various things. So long as we are able to work around these nuances and and scientifically address these issues for people and make them more aware, there is going to be enough space, right? I see that there are a number of startups that you named, and they're doing great work in their own spaces. But if you look at their business models in detail as compared to that of what we are doing, it's significantly different right from day one, right? And there is a space for all of these. So I do not think there is a even for us to be in competition with some of the incumbents, because we are into a different market in certain ways. Of course, like I said in the very start, it's a one generic umbrella of health and fitness, but we have different ways of getting to that fitness destination. So I would suggest that's how we are different, and that's how we are looking to make an entry in the space, which is already, like you said, I would not say it's crowded, but it's a fairly now aware and informed market.
All right, that sounds good. Now I will ask a question about what led to Fitpage really. And while the idea is great, see, as we all know, startups require a lot of other means to, fuel it.
Hmm?
We need great funding. We need a great team. We need great marketing around it. So tell me a little about the idea on your brain to idea on the table to finally idea in the market.
Yeah, sure. So this is not something that grew during COVID times. The work started in February last year. That was when I left my previous firm. I had put down my papers in 2019 December, um, and then we started to work on this idea more full term. But the work had started about 7 years ago when I went to business school. This was one of part of part of my assignments where I looked at this market, and I was trying to organically test with um, certain people who were at different stages of health, etc. And I did make a few presentations to my peer groups while I was at business school, and and I was seeing back then as well that this market was growing up, and and so before I started FitPage, for a couple of years, I actually tried to do an event, which was a half marathon event in Pune, which has become one of the largest events right now in the country. That we had started in 2018, and we did two events, and we actually tried to implement the basic concepts of what we are doing today in that event. We did not focus on the event. We focused on training people. We focused on educating people how it helps you become fitter, etc. And if you search for Bajaj Allianz Pune Half Marathon, you would see that on both in both the years it has about 20,000 people registering and participating in the event. So we tested it at a large scale, and we saw we were able to attract people on its merit, and we saw people were actually getting better. They were able to adapt to a sustainable lifestyle. And then why the event in this case was primarily because when you have a goal to work towards, there are lot more incentives for you in play. You're morally obligated in certain ways to work towards it, and that's how we created that event. But like I said, we focused on the building blocks of it that were going to build FitPage eventually. And when we saw it worked really really well, that's when I decided to start FitPage, and then um, I left my previous job. Pune Half Marathon now, we are going to continue doing that event as part of our initiative here. Um, but yeah, so FitPage we started. You're absolutely right that there are various other things that come in play, and you need liquidity, you need right time, you need right product. But I think what's more important is you need right team to be able to support you to get to where you want to get to. Otherwise, it just becomes a it just becomes a planning and just planning and dreaming, and not an effective execution. And so, fortunately, I was able to get right people to come and join us in the vision of getting people to be fitter. They came on board, and now we are a fairly large. We are 34 people team, and yeah, it's been a great journey. We were able to convince investors what we are doing does make sense, and that's how you would have seen our couple of media coverages, etc. So yeah, we have enough liquidity for us to be in the market and build something that's meaningful. We are not going to be excessively marketing oriented. We do want to market in certain ways, but we want to first test the product market fit and make sure we get a product that not only people love because of various external incentives, but they love it because they are able to sustainably work on their health, improve their fitnesses, and get towards a goal of being better over a period of time. If we can produce that product consistently in the market, I'm sure there will be enough right consumers who will continue to stay with us. There'll be sufficient users who will continue to stay with us, and that will attract um, maybe subsequent investments and everything else, right? But we are in no hurry to just go all out and be in the downloads dilemma and various other things. I would much rather just have, hypothetically, even if I have 500 users or 1,000 users, I would look to serve them really, really well, then go and get million users and not be able to serve even 1% of them really well, for example. That makes sense?
That sounds very noble. I think in a market where everybody is running after more customers, and more customers, the idea that the number of users I have, let me serve them well first, and then eventually, of course, word of mouth takes things ahead. I think that's a very noble gesture coming from a company. We spoke about your app. How are we on that? And what do we expect from the Fitpage app?
Sure. So we went live with our app on Android as well as on iOS platforms a couple of weeks ago. And what we went live with is limited feature set, because we wanted to make sure that the features that are there are adding value. What we have launched and what we are looking at right now is we have divided entire fitness space into 3 major categories, right? Before you get to training, it's important for you to get assessed. As you come on the platform, we have come up with a Fit 500 test, which is a 500-second test, which you can do within the app itself. It has its own inbuilt GPS. You switch on the GPS, it will give you the explainers as to what are you supposed to do. Basically, you are supposed to cover the maximum distance that you can cover today with your current fitness over a period of 500 seconds. Once you are done with it, the system finds out what's your current cardiovascular fitness. Once we are able to figure out your current cardiovascular fitness, that's your assessment level, that's complete. That then puts you on a training plan which is suitable to your fitness, which is going to be very, very different than anyone else's fitness, right? One of the gaps that exists in today's market is that there is generalized plan that's pushed to people, and everybody just goes and they do a Zumba, they do an HIIT, or they do XYZ plans, not knowing whether they are contraindicated to that plan, whether they're limited because of their own constraints, or they have an injury or illnesses, etc., whether the plan is going to be suitable for you or not. And that's the reason why every single person who comes on the platform, we suggest them to take the test, and basis that test, we are designing a training plan that's suitable right for you. What that plan does then, week on week, as you progress, it monitors, and basis that, it progresses or regresses your training intensities. as well as volumes, as well as duration, right? Because if you, for example, and all the features are not available right now. All of these will come in next 3 to 6 to 9 months, because as you know, building technology is hard. Planning is very easy, and also speaking about it is even easier, but executing that is extremely difficult. So we are going to be coming up with these features over a period of time. But what I was saying is that if you progress over the current week, say you have slept well, you have recovered well, you have been eating well, then it's going to give you a maybe more intense plan that's suitable for your new fitness. If you have not slept well, if you have not recovered well, and your training paces are slacking, when the system monitors it, it's going to regress your training plan for you to ease into it, allow you to then progress. Because if we don't do that, it's going to cause you an injury, it's going to cause you an illness, it's not going to allow you to recover optimally. And as a result, demotivation will set in, and you are not going to be able to continue to work out with that training plan. Um, so that's the training aspect. Like I said, it's just one aspect that has come out. We will have various new aspects that will be coming out, whether it's in the nutrition space, it's in the fitness space, etc. But the more important area of the app that people must explore is the learn section. Learn section is nothing but these are highly curated content pieces that are in form of videos, audios, and text, where people can go and learn the science of everything. For example, you want to learn the science of fitness progression, you will be able to find that. You want to find out what's the kind of right pair of shoes you should select for yourself, you'll find that. How to understand more about nutrients, macronutrients and micros, you'll be able to find that. What's the science of weight loss, you'll be able to find all of that. So basically what we have done is we have curated these content with the help of exercise scientists, sports nutritionists, and researchers, and convert that into content pieces that are easily digestible to lay people like us, where we don't need to have a specific health and fitness degree to be able to understand that. That's what we are doing.
In fact, I have browsed on some of your content through your Instagram fit page, and it's really interesting and motivating.
Thank you.
So now that I'm speaking to a fitness entrepreneur, I have to ask you, what are your 3 top fitness hacks? Please tell me.
Yeah, I think it's not a rocket science. I feel I'm going to pick up a few things that I do regularly, and I keep focusing on the point of doing regularly, because it has to be sustainable. Regardless of what you pick up, if you're not able to do it for a period of time and consistently, you're not going to be successful at it. So I think one is building sustainable habits in fitness, whatever that habit is, right? If you're able to do it over a period of time, you are definitely going to get better at it, right? So that's the most important hack. The second point I would say is, if you need to overeat, if you need to eat a lot more than what you generally eat,
Do you
try and
really
maximize.
overeat?
What
Do you
was
really
that?
need to overeat ever? Or is it just
Yeah, of course. I think
shake?
no. So you would be surprised. Last night I think we had a 3,000 calorie meal in dinner alone. So we all overeat, but that's fine, right? If you look at it, I always look at it this way. If you gain 1 kilogram of extra fat, you will gain that 1 kilogram of extra fat only if there is an energy surplus of 7,700 kcal, right? For you to be able to eat 7,700 kcal, that is excessive than what you are burning through the day, through your activities, through your workouts, or not workouts, non-workouts, when you are at rest or when you're sleeping. It's going to be very, very hard. I see people, they create a fuss over having extra dessert or XYZ. I don't think that's a big deal, honestly. So long as you are able to be in your um, net calorie deficit, you are fine. Or even the essential nutrients that are there, they need to be there in your food. You need to have all macronutrients and you need to have your micronutrients in the right proportion for you to be able to have a sustainable, healthy living, right? If you are getting onto any specific diet plan, in short to mid term, you might see certain results. But for it to be long term sustainable, you are going to have to move to consuming the right macronutrients more specifically, right? If you do not have the right proportion of carbohydrate, fat, and protein, all three, and water, you are not going to be able to live in the optimal health, in the right health for a period of time, right? You will fall sick, or you'll have certain issues or other that will crop up at certain stage in your life. So I'm someone who does not believe in following any specific very very cutthroat rigorous diets or fad diets. I'm rather a strong opponent of it. My point is, people always say that, hey, you should not have carbs, right? You always hear this, that, hey, you should not have carbs. But where do you get your energy from, right? Your body needs energy, right? And carbohydrate is your primary source of giving you energy. What you could rather say that you need to have your energy from right sources. If you are having your processed food, if you are having your burgers and pizzas all the time, which is stripped of its right nutrients, whether macro or micronutrients, you are not going to be healthy. But if you had the same macro, if you had the same calories from, say, fruits and vegetables, which are the original real sources of carbohydrate, uh, maximum amount of sugar is found there, but it's found in unprocessed way, right? Then you are going to be much more healthier than if you are just eating pizza and burger. You might just say, hey, I'm taking, even if you are just taking the same energy, but it's not the same energy because not coming from the same sources. It's highly processed, right? So I was continuing to say that if you want to consume calories and if you want to be in surplus in certain ways, on certain occasions, try and maximize your intake of protein, right? As opposed to maximizing the intake of fat or carbohydrate. I'm saying the surplus, or in our daily life generally as well, we get carbohydrate easily anyway, we get fat easily anyway. It's much harder to be able to get right protein sources and right protein to be included in your meal, which I try to adapt to. I will try to get like 1.5 to 1.6 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So for example, I'm 72, so I'll try and get about 110 gram of protein per day. So 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 I would say that's something I would definitely suggest for people, not as a fitness hack, but as a strategy that will work for sure. And third thing, because you asked for three, that is that I try to get sleep over 7 hours, right? I, on an average, I would like to sleep between 7 to 8 hours, and that gets me fully recovered for the next day, for the next week, and I'm able to be a lot more focused, a lot more alert, and a lot more productive. So yeah, hopefully this makes sense.
Certainly makes a lot of sense. I think sleep is something that we don't really look up to as a health check, but I believe we must, from what he's saying. The rest for your
Yeah,
body.
in fact, on sleep, on sleep, actually, I had a very interesting podcast with one of the leading researchers, leading sleep scientists. Her name is Dr. Amy Bender. So on my podcast, which is run with Fitpage, we interviewed her for an hour where we were speaking about the the importance of sleep, and people are more interested. They could go and look at it, and I'm sure they will benefit a lot more because she's the expert and she's one of the leading experts in the world.
I will certainly look for it, and then maybe in the comment section, definitely leave a link for this particular interview. This is really interesting. What's
Sure.
the future of Fitpage looking like now, going forward?
I think the future will tell what's the future of Fitpage, where we reach. But like I said earlier, we want to be able to focus on helping and adding value to our users who are on the platform and who are coming on the platform on daily basis. We want to be in the coaching space, the training space, and education space for fitness. And we want to use technology to disseminate this information. We will never be physical. That is, we'll never have physical centers to do anything because that is not the way for us to be able to scale. We we think we are at a stage where we've been able to produce an endurance sport application which is world class. If you see any of our competitors that are outside India, when they look at us, they would definitely be able to think that we have produced something um, that is in close competition to them, and that has been built in India by Indian runners and endurance athletes and scientists. So I would love for it to gain popularity in the country, and I would love for it to benefit people who are on the platform. And like I said, the scale and everything else will come with a period of time, but it's too early to suggest where we'll head, to be honest, in 5 to 10 years.
Well, best of luck for that. And now I'm going to go back to where we began, the starting of the journey. Now, see, there are very important stages in a person's life which finally create the people we turn out to be. I want to talk about the journey. There's a lot of talk about it in the press and media, anyways. That's where I started reading about you. But now, please tell me important stages of that journey. I would like to hear that from you.
Yeah, that itself can be a few hours conversation, if not a few days, to be honest. But I'm going to I'm going to maybe take next 5 minutes to explain through various stages, and I'll be happy to take any further questions that you might have. So right now I live in Mumbai, um, and I've been in Mumbai now for a while. But I grew up in Uttar Pradesh, as you said right in the start. There's a small village in the district of Pratapgarh, which is the village was fairly remote when I was born. My mom was possibly the first graduate in the village, and primarily because she came from outside the village. She came from Calcutta, and she was married to my dad. My brother and I, we were born, and because the village is very remote, or it was a lot remote back then, we did not have primary means of education or even primary means of being able to sustain a meaningful life. Right, that means in very simple terms, but we were extremely poor, and as poor as not being able to afford meals twice a day. And uh, and so mom sent us to Pratapgarh, which was the nearest city. We lived in a lodge there and studied, and that was the start of our, I guess, a meaningful life for us. And she sent us to the city for two primary reasons. One was to stay away from the issues of the village, and second was gain certain education. Uh, we did not know Hindi back then. We we're not talking about English. We did not know Hindi. What it means is we knew our local dialect, and the first room we had taken on rent, the landlord would not be willing to speak with us, primarily because we did not speak Hindi, and he did not. To give him credit, maybe he did not understand the language we spoke, which was like um, a very local, hyper local dialect from the village where we belonged. Uh, Maybe to fast forward, we moved later to Allahabad, where I took admission in the university, and in parallel, I also got the chance to move to National Cadet Corps, where I started competing in various sporting events, and I was in the naval wing of the Cadet Corps, and that further allowed me to progress. And after my C certification, that became almost like an eligibility when I got the C certification to be able to apply at Reliance Industries back then, where I joined in security department in 2004. And I happily took the job, primarily because that was possibly the highest amount of money we had heard or seen back then in 2004. That was I think it was a gross salary of 8,000 rupees per month, and that used to be 6,600 in hand that used to come. And we were super excited. And I came to Mumbai for the first time and started working in security department, where I used to stand at a security gate wearing a safari uniform, and worked there for 3 years. It taught me a lot. It taught me specifically of what I don't like doing, what I don't want to do in life for sure. And from there, fortunately, I was able to get selected to Goldman in 2007. And that's the time around when I learned my basics of English, of speaking. I could write, of course, because we had this in our earlier classes when I was studying, but we could not speak. Um, so I learned it then, and I spent about 11 years, 10 to 11 years with the firm. I also spent some time with Morgan Stanley in between, worked at different places. And while I was there, I also had the opportunity to go for my MBA at Booth on a 100% scholarship. Came back, decided to join a media and skilling firm in 2017, did that for 3 years, and then started Fitpage. In summary, that's what we did.
Where there is a will, there's a way. And where there is a strong mother, there is definitely a lot of way to progress.
Of course, yes, for sure. She's the one who made us, to be honest. She started a small school in a hut about 5 kilometers away from home, so that I could study. And now that school is a degree college, and she still is there, and she's the principal of the college, and it's all girls college, and is doing fairly well. So yeah, you're absolutely right that I also think that one person can change the fate of one entire family, and that's what my mom did to us. And yeah, we all at least um, got together to do something meaningful, and all of us in the family are doing fairly okay.
So you are not the first startup founder in your family, your mother is.
My mother is. She is the real startup founder.
How interesting is that? Okay, now this is going to be my last question to you for today. Um, it's if I were to ask you about actually two last questions. One is who are the three founders or entrepreneurs in our country today who you think are immensely good in their fitness regime? If you have to name three, who do you think they would be?
Sure.
Yourself, you can name yourself too.
No, I think um, almost everyone now is more aware of their fitnesses and their health. So people are more conscious, and they do things meaningfully that contributes to their good health. But if I were to name a few, of course, I'm not going to name myself. That's for people to make a decision. But I feel good in my skin, and I feel healthy. That's a good thing. Uh, I would say first is going to be Samir Bhatia, ex HDFC, and now the founder of SME Corner. Great endurance athlete, and at his age, he has done exceptionally well. So that's one person. I would say the second, I would say, is the Tata Group um, managing director, that is Mr. Chandra. He's also an endurance athlete. He's been now running marathons for many years, and I get really impressed with what he's doing. A lot of us, we look up to him for motivation in endurance. And I think third, if I were to name, I would name Mr. Vicky Oberoi, the owner of Oberoi Group, and he's super fit. I'm not sure how he maintains it, but I really like his fitness. So yeah, these are some of the guys I would think who are fairly fit. But I'm sure there are a lot more. Either I don't know of them, or maybe it's just not coming to mind right now.
Three three startups in the fitness space globally who you think are doing fantastic job, and who you would take inspiration from.
Yeah, I do take inspiration from a lot of them, honestly. I think the way Strava has been able to build a running community. It's fantastic. In the endurance space, they are doing some really meaningful work. And today, if you see more than 50 million users across the globe, and a very strong fitness community that has come together. The second company I was saying is Maurten, Maurten, and they also are the nutrition sponsor for Eliud Kipchoge. Mr. Kipchoge is the fastest marathon runner in the world right now, and I don't think they're great because of that. But what I think they're great is because the kind of product they've been able to produce. When you do a marathon or longer distance runs, you need your nutrition to be taken in a particular way, because when you are running at that intensity, your nutrition needs to be digested while you are on the run, because you're consuming that food while you're on the run. And they have been able to do uh, great work there. And then third company, I would say, again in the nutrition space, Indian company, it's Fast and Up. They are doing a fantastic job of providing nutrition solutions to various athletes and various sports. In running, they're extremely famous and almost have become a go-to brand now for almost every event organizer, every runner. Again, a very strong community driven, and also the founder and some of the core members are great endurance athletes themselves, and so they understand the need of endurance athletes. And I've seen them grow personally in the last 5 years, and I think they have huge potential to be even much bigger. So these are three companies for sure. There are a lot more, but these three companies for sure that I would rate as my top three.
Well, I'm going to be tagging all these companies, and I'm sure they're going to hear this from you. Vikas, thank you so much for first launching a company like Startup, which is making India more fitter, uh, more athletic. Because as we grow ahead and we see different countries with more athletic people coming out of there, I hope India also has more Olympic geniuses out there. Thank you so much, and all about endurance sports. Thanks for telling us so much about it, because I'm sure a lot of people are motivated towards something that is more sustainable. And I think sustainable nutrition, sustainable fitness is your core idea.
Sure. So thank you, Himika, for having me. And if our conversation motivated few people to get out of the door, and of course within COVID, it will be amazing if we are able to inspire more people to come and take up a fitness task, and not more as a task, but more as a lifestyle, and work towards it. It's going to be amazing. We are loving what we are doing, and we will be in this space for long term, and we are just getting started. We are super excited, and I'm looking forward for our continued conversation. So thank you, Himika, for having me.
As far as talking about inspiration concerned, I had missed my yoga today, so now after talking to you, I'll go back and do it. So that's a lot of inspiration.
Nice.
Take care. Have a nice day.